function, and like this, it's a class student in type for default counter. Print line. This is default constructor, right? And one parameterized constructor also. With 2 and S3. S2 if I call, it is saying clone here. Clone function is calling clone function, and this clone function is calling superclass. S3 function is get cloned object. You are calling your. This is actually not required in this case. Not required, right? You are explicitly doing. This is the difference, right? So now, if you check, if you compile and execute this program, it is going to work fine. And if I print here S1, S2, and S3, say here I am printing S1, S2, and S3, right? All the value will be different. I'll just copy and I'll put into the IDE. See the output once. I'll take one more test. Engage. It's a class test. Package is count.clone.p4 and click on it. Okay, it has to return. It has to return. Returns, right? Next is this test class should be public. Okay. And student. What is the problem here? Return type we have given here as object, and this object is not required. You can give directly. And you are called clone. Clone not supported exception. And you have to make it public. Public, right? And in student class, I have taken the constructors. This is fine. After parameterized constructor. Show if I have not taken. If you have any problem, call. You can tell. Right. And the function is called. Object is created. This is also done. And printing S1, S2, and S3. Right. Run it. It is fine. It is completely 3 different object, right? Constructor is used. Which one is used? Your function get cloned object. So both this is clone function, super.clone, and here you are doing both is almost same. Difference is in this place clone function is doing the task without using default constructor. Here you are calling the default constructor copying content. One more important difference is clone function is checking the eligibility of the object whether it is eligible for cloning or not. If it is eligible for cloning, then only clone function is cloning. If it is not eligible, it will not clone, right? But in your task, what you are doing, you are not doing any test, you are directly cloning. But now what I want to do is, in my custom, I want that you check first whether the object is eligible for cloning or not. If it is eligible for cloning, then only you clone. If it is not eligible for cloning, don't clone. What clone function is doing, I want to do the same, only for the validation test. But clone function is not using default constructor. Here also I don't want to use default constructor. That you cannot do. That you have to. You have to use the default. But how clone function is whether object is cloning or not, that you can verify here. Before cloning, I want to check whether the object is eligible for cloning or not. Now, When the object will be eligible for cloning? If the object is an instance of clonable interface, what we have discussed in last tutorial. Object is eligible for clonable interface, then only object is eligible for cloning. So here, if you want to check before doing all this task, I want to check whether the object is eligible for cloning or not. To check that, you have to say here if the object is eligible, then do this. If the object is eligible for cloning, do till this and clone. Otherwise, else a clone not supported exception. Then what you have to do? You have to write here throw new clone not supported exception. This is the change. This validation. If object is eligible for cloning, clone. If not eligible for cloning, give the exception similar like clone function, how it is giving. Now what this statement is doing, throw a clone new clone not supported exception, that you have discussed in exception handler. You just write it in this way, right? So if you want to do this, then how will you test is which object this get clone object is cloning. Get cloned object function is cloning the current object, and the current object is clonable or not. So current object here you can refer with this instance of clonable interface. The instance of clonable interface. If this is instance of clonable interface, then create the object, copy the content and return. If it is not, then throw clone not supported exception. Right? How clone function of the object class is doing the same thing we are doing now here. We are checking the eligibility. If it is okay, clone. Okay, don't clone. Right? Now it has to be an exception. Similar like this. The clone function of the object class also implemented almost in the same way. And this statement also is about the clone not supported exception. This clone not supported exception is always clone function. Now when your function is in this clone not supported exception, then here clone exception, clone not supported exception. You have to write this. Okay. Again, this also we'll discuss in the exception handling topic. Right. Now, when I will call get cloned object, say S2 I am not using now. This I am not using. So here also S2 is not available. So I'll let him comment. Right. The object by only using get cloned object function. And get cloned object function, what it has to do? First state object. Okay. If it is clonable, clone. No problem. If not clonable, give an exception. So currently the object is eligible for cloning. Why? Because I am using here clonable interface. So if you do it now, if you run this, no problem. It is okay, fine. Default constructor is used and object is cloned, right? But say this part I'll remove. Implements clonable is not available. Now you run implement clonable is not available. Now it is clone not supported exception. It is behaving exactly similar like how clone function is behaving. But what is the difference? The difference is if the object is no, not this is the difference. Difference is eligibility test will be there in both the places, but clone function will not use default constructor. Your implementation will use, right? So this is the difference. What are the things you need to remember when you will use your custom function to get the cloned object? One thing is you have to check the eligibility test. Second is if it is not eligible, you have to remember this throw new clone not supported exception. And when you are writing here clone not supported exception, this statement also should be available with the function be available. And if this is available, now in the main function also you must write throws clone not supported exception. So this is how you clone an object by using clone function of object class default constructor and your custom function. And the difference or how clone works, how your function works in your custom implement, right? All this is we have discussed. So this is half of the cloning. Half of the cloning is done. And this part is called as shallow cloning. Cloning is of two types, shallow cloning and deep cloning. What we did now is called as shallow cloning. Then what is deep cloning? What we did now is shallow cloning. Okay. Now what is deep cloning? Deep cloning is so this part you have to remember very clearly. Okay, eligibility test, and here how you are using console, or you can unmute your speaker and you can tell. Okay, shallow cloning done. Now next is the deep cloning. What is deep cloning? Assume in the shallow cloning, I'll modify this class. Okay, student class I'll modify, and Say I have one more class address. Address is a class. In a class I have two instance member, some 3 is there in address ID, string type, state, and string type. Right, these 3 members I have. And in address also I have a default constructor, and I'll write here one SOP statement. Print line address default constructor, right. And one parameterized constructor also is available in this service. AID, string type, state, and string type, city. And you write here it is int, comma, string and string constructor. It is not default. Right. And the function I am not using any show function or any other function. Right. So this is address class. Student clonable is fine. Implementing clonable fine. Student class is having a default constructor. Okay. Student class is having a parameterized, that is also fine. Student class is having 2 members, SID and name. Now student class is having one more member, that is address. It is an instance variable of student class. Now when we will create an object of student, 3 memory will be allocated in each object. One is for SID and one is for AD. But ADD here is a reference variable, right? ADD is a reference variable. So for this you need an object, right? You need an object. So parameterized, one default constructor is there, one parameterized constructor to initialize SID and name and address. ADD, right? This also has to be initialized. So now this I will say address, right? And initialize this as this dot add is equal to add, right? So this is the string. And the clone function currently I am not set this get clone object, or keep as it is remaining part keep as it is. In the test I am creating an object of student by using a parameterized constructor. But when I use these parameterized constructors, how many parameters I need to pass? I need to pass 3 parameters: SID, name, and one address object. So what I'll do is I'll create here one address first. Address add1 is equal to new address, and address is having one default constructor and one parameterized. But in parameterized you have 3: ID, name, and string, right? And this also has to be initialized again. This dot address ID is equal to address ID. This dot state is state. This dot city is city, right? Now this constructor I use to create the object of address class. So here I need to pass 3 parameters. Address is 111, address ID. State is Karnataka. City is Bangalore, right? And this object add1 I pass to S1. So this is add1, right? So student object is. Now I want copy the S1 to the S1 object. Now if you see the memory diagram for this, how the memory diagram will be for S1 object, you start from the main method first, and in the main method say one method area to load the classes, stack memory, and this is stack and this is right, and here you have the main method. or I'll take it at this main. Main is from here to this. Right. Inside the main, first you have created one address object add1, one add reference variable. So here one add reference variable is required. And first one is this add1, then you have one more s1, right? add1 object is created and student object is created, right? Student object is created. add1 and this is s1. add1 is having address ID which we have given 111. It has state which we have given Karnataka. It has city which is Bangalore, right? The address is say 1020 and then add1 is 1020, right? S1, this is S1 object is created. S1 is having SID we have given here 100, name we have given here say ABC, and one more reference variable it has, this is add1. It is actually add, okay? In this student class it is add, it is this add, right? So this is add, but add is a reference variable. add is a reference variable, and this is add variable. Right. Now what is the value of the add value we have given here as add1. add1 has to go to add. What is the add1 value? This is add1 local variable. add1 value 1020 means this value should be this value should be 1020, right? This is done. Now what is the meaning? This add also points to this object, this pointing here, right? add also points to this, and now the address of S1, this is 2040, so this also should be 2040, right? Now is this points here and this points here. So this is the till now this is the total diagram, right? add1, this add1 is a member object of one here. This is the member object. This is called member object. This member object, right? add1 is a member object of S1. This is called member object. You can write here, say this is our object, right? Now what clone S1? S1 I want to clone. S1 cloning means what? S1 cloning means this one is cloned. This object is cloned. Now cloning, for cloning S1, you can use one of the approach. You can use clone function of the object class, or you can use your custom function to clone this object. Cloning means what? It has to create a new object in this location with the same content. Content must be same, right? This point you have to keep in mind. Constant must be same. So first approach is assume I'll use the clone function. I'll not use this. This I'm not using. I'm using clone function. So clone function is already ready here. This clone function is already ready. You just call it. So here on this is student S2 is equal to, you have to typecast because clone function return object type object. So student typecasted and S1 dot clone, S1 dot done. S1 cloning is done and you got S2. Now the memory will get it for this reference variable. Okay, S2 is a new reference variable in the main method. So this is S2, right? This is S2, and this object has to be cloned. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this. It has to copy this as it is with the same content. So I'm copying and I'll paste it, and this object came into this location, right? Copy it as it is. Clone, because clone is doing this, so it is copied, right? And the address, assume the address is now changed. Address is not 20. Now address is say 20, some new address 2080. So this content is also 2080, right? This is clone, fine. It has whatever content is there object, the same content is copied into this newly created object. Now you notice the add1. add1 is a memory address 1020. Now when it is copied here, this add1 also address is 1020. What is the meaning of this? Means this add reference variable also points to the same previous object. This, right? So what are the things you have to notice here is, now if I any content of S1 object, say if I modify here, if I modify S1.SID, then it is not going to change S2.SID. If I modify S1.name, it is not going to change S2.name. But if I modify S1.add.aid, then S2.add.aid gets modified. In S2add, both is referencing to the same address object, right? This is the concept of shallow cloning. Shallow cloning means the object which you are cloning, here we are cloning S1 object. S1 object gets cloned with the same content. But if S1 object is having any other member object, then member object will not be cloned. Cloned object and the actual object, both the object, member object remains same as it is. It is this. So we'll try this and take one more test. Say one new class in com.clone.p5, and class is again test. Main method anyway is there. So right. Check the classes. Address class. Address is having a default constructor, okay. Address is having parameterized constructor, okay. Student class implements clonable interface. It is having this three constructor, parameterized constructor initializing all fine. Function should be public. Okay. Clone function is public, and this get cloned object has to write a return statement. Currently we are not using delete, still I'll complete it. So this is returning as fine, and we are calling student S2 clone. Now the address of S1 and S2. If I print the address of S1 and S2, then the value should be different. So I am printing first. So this is S1, or I'll write here this is S1. S1 is equal to S1, and printing S2 also. S2. That will be different. But if I put here S1.add, this is S1.add. Same here again. S2.add, and in this s2 dot add. Then s1 value should be different, but s1 dot add and s dot add value should be same because both is pointing to the same object. Now run it. Right. Address object is created, student object is created. Now s1 value is this one, right? S1 value and s2 value is this. S1 dot add and s2 dot add. Modify the content also. Suppose here I'll draw a line. Draw a line. And print the content also before once. And to print the content here I'll take a method. Say suppose I have a method here in this show info method. Void show info, right? And this sid plus one tab space plus name plus one tab space plus add dot aid plus one tab space plus add dot state plus add dot take one tab space add dot city. Right. So this is printing. Now here in the main method I'll print here s1 dot show info, s1 dot show info once, and s2 dot show info, right? s1 dot show info, s2 dot show info, and after that I'll modify. Okay, run it once. Printing s1. Why sid is not assigned? SID is not assigned in this. Maybe the problem is with the constructor. It should be this dot SID is, it is not this, it is this. Next, say now if we print fine, right? S1 and S2 value is printed exactly same, but the address is different. Now if I modify the value of S1, say here if I am modifying the value of S1 SID, I am changing. S1 dot SID is 10 and S1 dot name is some XYZ. Some XYZ, right? And after that changed. After that I dot show info to dot show info, s1 dot show info to dot show. Now in this case s1 value is changed, but only change is SID, and we go to the diagram here and it changed. Now run it. S1 SID and name is changed. S2 name and SID is not changed, but remaining value still remain as. Now if I change the state and city or something like this, say suppose here I'll draw one more line. Right here that S1 AD dot AID is changed to suppose 999, and S1 AD dot city changed. City is equal to say some A something, right? After that again S and run this. This is S1 address ID changed. This is changed. S2 address ID and city is also changed, because both the changes are in the same location here in this ADD, and city here changed. So because of that, in S2 also it is. So this is called shallow cloning. Shallow cloning. Member object will not be cloned. Now I don't want shallow cloning like this. I want deep cloning. Means the member object S1 object when I'll clone S1 object, whatever member object means this ADD should not point into this object. For ADD also has to create a new object, and newly created object address has to assign to this ADD. Right? This is what I want. This is called deep cloning. Member object also has to be cloned. This is called deep cloning. Now we do it. Okay, right like this. For ADD, it has to create a new object, and say this is the object, and the address has to change for this. So address I will change some other address. And now this should not point by this one. It should not point here. Instead of that, it has to point to this object. It has point to this, and so the new created object address has to assign into this. Now this address should not be 1020. This should not be 1020. It should have a new address. Say address I'll give as say 5040, and here you have to assign. You have to assign here 504. Right? This is the diagram. Now change the content of address of S1. If we change the content of S1, then this is not going to be changed. Right? This is called as deep cloning. Is this right? Now how will you do this? The clone function. How we cloned? We have used clone function. The clone function which is available in object class is not eligible for deep cloning. Means clone function object class clone function cannot do the deep cloning. It can do only the shallow cloning. If you want to do the deep cloning, then you have to put your custom function design. You must go with this. You don't have any other option. You have to do it on your own. Okay, you have to do that on your own. Now when you are writing your clone function explicitly, you have already seen the eligibility test. How will you create the object, how we will copy the content, and how to return the address. Same thing we are going to do here in our function now. So shallow cloning is done by using the clone function, right, of the object class default constructor, which is overridden clone function again super.clone. Now because shallow cloning is not cloning the member object, I need to clone the member object. I need deep cloning. So to use your custom function to get the cloned object for deep cloning, right? And how will you design the custom function? What you need to do is, now first you see what you need to do. First you have to create a student object. Okay, first you have to create a student object. But before creating the student object, you have to check the object which you are cloning. So cloning here is S1. We have to check the object S1 is eligible for cloning or not. So that we will do by using this. I'll write and I'll tell. I have to check first this instance of clonable. If it is an instance of clonable, first you check this. If it is an instance of clonable. If not, else. If not, if it is instance of clonable, here you create the object and return it. Copy the content, return it. Otherwise, throw new clone not supported exception. Right? This you have to write. If the object S1 is eligible for cloning, then clone. If it is not, write this. Right? Create a object of clone not supported exception and throw that. So this is the test. Okay, if the test is success, if it is fine, object is eligible for. First you have to create a object here. By using default constructor of student class, you have to create an object of, like here you have to create a constructor. When I will create the object, say student s is equal to new student. Done. What is next? You have to copy the content of this. This object content has to be copied. This object content has to be copied to the newly created object, right? Say we can do it here. According to this, how we will do it is, so I'll create object here. First is that is fine, okay. And student object default constructor is created. So this is student 1 object is created. Created default student object. So this is student object is created. Or do it here. One student object created by using default constructor. Now when you will do it by using default constructor, all the instance variable member has to be initialized. It has to get the memory. What are the instance variable available? SID, name and address. So here one memory has to be allocated for the SID. So allocating the memory for SID. This is for SID. This is say name and this is say AD. This thing. Name it. This is SID, this is name and this is AD. All memory is allocated ready. All will get the default value. SID will get 0, name will get null, AD will get null. So this is done. According to this lab, till this is done. All got always simple. Now next is what? Which object you are cloning? Copy the content. I am cloning S1. So S1 SID has to store into this SID here. S1 how we will refer here? By using this. So S.SID means this SID. S.SID means it is this SID. This SID. This SID should be this dot SID, right? So now one SID is copied. What should be the value here? The value should be 101. Same way, name also has to be copied. S dot name is equal to this dot, right? So here name is copied, name is right. Address. Now if I write say S dot is equal to this dot add, what will happen? This is an address. This dot add means 1020. 1020 will be assigned into add, means it will become exactly similar like this. If I assign an address variable into another reference variable, then this add also starts pointing to the same object here, and again it will become shallow cloning. But I don't want like this. I want now in this format. Created. So what you have to do is you have to create one address. I am creating one. You use statement. Okay, if you write, it will become shallow cloning. So here you create another add address. Add is equal to new address. One new address object is created. Now assume the address object is created at this point. So address object is created here. This is one new address object is created. When you will create the address object, what are the instance variables available? You have AID, city and state. So here you need to create the memory for all three because you are using default constructor. So this is say AID, this is state, and so this is city. Name it. So this is AID, this is state, and this is city. Now this is a new object create. New object for this by default constructor here means you got this one. You got this one. Now what you have to do? S1 object address, S1 object which you are cloning, this object number value has to be copied into the created address object. How right? So this is add.aid is equal to this. This means current object. Under that AID should be assigned to add.aid. This dot add.aid, this dot add.sid means s1.8.11 value 111 has to copy to add.aid is this one. So here the value is copied and the value is 111. Right. Same way you have to copy the content of that also. add.state is equal to this dot add.state. So here you have to write the state. It is Karnataka. Same way that one add.city is equal to this dot add.city. Termination. So this city is copied here. So city is now all the content of S1, all the content of S1.add is copied. This content is copied into this newly created address object. Now what you have to do? This newly created address object has to assign into S2 in this. You have to assign into this. So this object address is true. This has to assign into this. This is true. Means what now? Now this is pointing into this. This is pointing, right? Now what happened? You got exactly this. You got exactly this. But the object has the address has to be assigned. So again, instead of writing s.add is equal to this.add, you have to write s.add is equal to add. This local add address object assigned to s.add means it is in this. Right? So this is done. Now finally you have to return. It's s has to be returned. And when you will return s, now say this is also having one address. This say for this object address is 2203, something like this. Now this address is assigned. It is returned. And who is doing all this? All this is doing by getClone function. When you will call here getClone function now you should not say here clone. You should say here student s2 is equal to m dot get cloned object, not clone. If I say clone, it gives the shallow cloning object. If I say get cloned object, which we have created, we have tested everything in this get cloned object, tested, created student object content is copied, but member object content is not copied. For member object, we have created a new member object first, and the member object content is copied into the new object, assigned it to the newly created student object, and the student object is returned. If it is not eligible for the cloning, then clone not supported exception is given. Right. So address is returned to